The Joe Rogan Experience.
Mental toughness is one of the most important aspects of wrestling. Obviously, technique and fitness are huge, but mental toughness is what defines wrestlers, in my opinion. Because when you see wrestlers, successful wrestlers, in the UFC in particular, there's no one like them. When they come over to MMA, you recognize like there's something special about them as athletes. And I think that it comes from the fact that wrestling is so difficult. The practices are so hard. But in the world of mental toughness, where mental toughness is one of the cornerstones, you're known as a guy that stands out. Like you stand out amongst, like David Goggins likes to say, you're uncommon amongst uncommon men. Like what is that? Like what made you stand out from these other wrestlers?
Well, I'm going to jump forth to my high school coach, even though I got a lot before that. But I just remember what he said in the room. And he was like the best high school coach in the state at the time. He said, guys, win with humility. Lose with dignity, but damn it, don't lose. And he put those last two lines together real quick, so you kind of had to listen to him. But it was pretty neat because you win with humility, you lose with dignity, but damn it, don't lose. And so, that was my first major coach that really taught me a lot of those type of principles. But before that, I was a kid that was at the YMCA when I was 5, 6 years old. And basically the reason why I was there, because, you want to learn how to swim, because if you're an outdoors guy and you want to be around water and you want to make sure you know how your kids swim. So my mom and dad got me into the YMCA. But what they got me into the YMCA really for was they needed help. I mean, my dad was a full-time worker and my mom, she stayed at home a lot, but she also helped my dad. He had an office at home. But I was a little hellion, and they needed me to learn how to swim. But they also needed me to learn how to be a little bit sociable. They needed me to learn how to get along with kids. My first job was at the YMCA. I actually competed. My first sport competitively was, besides practicing, was swimming. And I won a YMCA state championship when I was 12 years old, believe it or not, in the backstroke, which, in wrestling, I know in fighting you can go to your back and there's lots of tools that you can do there, but I hate going to my back, and I think if I was a fighter, I would think I hate gravity coming down on me. So I don't mind putting it down, but, and there's skills there you have to learn. But I really liked, the YMCA because it gave me a chance to learn something away from home. I was home with my mom, I was home with my dad, home with my sister, 4 years older than me. But, it's just something, I call it going for help. And I think my mom and dad realized at that time that they needed some help with this kid. And I think that's a really good thing to think about as people in the world when you have kids growing up. And if you're not giving them what you need to give them, why not go for help? And there's organizations out there. Now you got to be careful, who you're putting them into, or even if you're giving them to a babysitter or whatever like that. But if you're pretty confident that you have a good place to get some help, you get some help. And I same way with me as a coach, same way with me as a husband. I mean, I got my wife, I got my family, I had my assistant coaches, and I got my fans. I mean, I always had them looking out for me. I built that kind of trust with them, or more than even trust, just they want to help. And that was the way. Now, you can't go overboard. You still got to make sure that the help you're getting is the right help. But the YMCA was perfect for me because, I can remember the first day they took us to a wrestling room. We had a little wrestling room at the YMCA. And I was already wrestling before that because my dad was a wrestler, not a great wrestler, but his friends were. So when they came to the wrestling, learning the sport, my first wrestling room was at the YMCA there, even though I had been in a wrestling room because these older guys had drugged me around to the wrestling rooms, but in Waterloo. But I can remember wrestling a kid, and I handled him pretty good because I had already been wrestling on my carpet at home, wrestling outside in the grass, and these people had a little experience with me. So But the kid, kind of got mad. And so I was waiting for my mom and dad to pick me up after after the Wise couple hours where you spend there. And this kid came out and he goes, you can, maybe you beat me in wrestling up there. But he goes, how about a street fight? And I said, whoa. I was probably 8 years old at the time. And, I was downtown Waterloo, Iowa, tough town. I was on one side of the river, and he was on the other side of the river growing up. And so he probably had been in more fights than me, but I wasn't going to fight him. I was waiting for my dad to pick me up, and all of a sudden, he punches me. And so, what do? You got to fight. I mean, either that or run, and I fought, and I did all right. I mean, just like in the wrestling room, I did all right. And so I had some of that in me too. But when I had the guy on the down, and I kind of let him up, we both looked over. My dad was there standing watching me, and that guy's dad was standing there. And my dad and his were talking to each other. And so, that's part of an experience that you kind of grow up in. And I don't know if they even knew each other, but they were kind of supervising, yet we didn't know they were there.
Right.
And that was kind of one of my first experiences with understanding a little bit about competition outside the organized sports,
Yeah, raw competition.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, primal.
Yep, yeah. So, actually, speaking of the story there, it was a really good one. This is about my mom and dad. My mom and dad were great people, but they liked to drink a lot of beer and smoke a lot of cigarettes, and that's why they probably didn't live so long, and they probably had some trouble at home. And by that I mean the cops visited a home quite often just to break up fights, or my mom would probably call the cops on my dad. And so the first time I ever really took notice was when they came the first time and they took my dad away. And, he had been rough with my mom, so I probably understood. But I saw him kind of throw a handcuff on him. I think they just threw one on and kind of took him out the door. I didn't really see from there. So he came home that night later on. He just, I don't know, they brought him back later. But so the next day I went to school, and the policeman that had come and picked him up was actually a neighbor down the street, just lived about a block from us. And I was really mad, at the police taking my dad away, even though probably it was a good thing. But I didn't really understand what was going on at that time. This is different today, probably wouldn't go on. But the neighbor policeman about a block away had a son in my class at school. So after school that day, we were both walking home, and I was really mad. And I pulled out of my pocket a wire, and I took this kid down on the ground, and I wired his wrists together. And not real hard, but like there were handcuffs. And I grabbed the wire, and I said, "This is what your dad did to my dad last night, and I'm going to do it to you, and I'm going to take you, and I'm going to take you home this way." And I took him home because they lived about a block away, and I untook the things off and let him go in. But it's about probably fourth grade. But my dad found out about that, and wow, what did I get in trouble. I mean, he used to hit me on top of the head with a ring, probably why I don't have much hair. And he looked at me, and he said, "You know what? I was intoxicated last night. It was good they took me out of here. But you know what they did to me when they got me down to the police department?" He said, "I played pool with them. They had a little billiards room down there, and they played pool with me until I sobered up, and then they brought me back." And you did that to his son? I said, "Dad, I was just protecting you, I thought, but and everybody understood. But it's kind of funny how things are. And I don't think that's the old days, good old days, compared to, they'd probably do a lot more. They'd lock you up probably, but I don't give you too many breaks. But it's kind of funny how that's the kind of house, difference between 40 years ago, 50 years ago, 60 years ago.
What do you think's
forget.
better though? Like the good old days the good old days, or is it better today?
I think I like the good old days. I mean, I got picked up one other time, and it was my former. I was back home from college, and he was my gym teacher in 8th grade, and Mr. Blue, and he ended up being a policeman. So when I came home from college, so that was about in 7th grade. So we're talking 6, 7, and 8 years later, when I was home for the weekend, and I was driving, and he picked me up, and I probably had a beer in the car or something, and he actually let me go, but he picked me up again the same night. So he took me down a second time, and he put me in his office in the police station, and we talked for quite a while. But he let me go too. But you just can't get away with it. I mean, there's just more rules, regulations, and if people find out, it's like, whoa. I think the good old days probably gave you a chance to actually realize things better than you can today. You can actually get a second chance, maybe, and that type of thing.
Catch new episodes of the Joe Rogan Experience for free only on Spotify. Watch back catalog JRE videos on Spotify, including clips. Easily, seamlessly switch between video and audio experience. On Spotify, you can listen to the JRE in the background while using other apps and can download episodes to save on data cost, all for free. Spotify is absolutely free. You don't have to have a premium account to watch new JRE episodes. You just need to search for the JRE on your Spotify app. Go to Spotify now to get this full episode of the Joe Rogan Experience.